Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of By the Common Man. I'm your host, Ardell Jackson. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. We have another good episode, Thursday Thoughts, Thursday Talks. Today, we're going to talk about failure. And failure isn't the enemy. Quitting on yourself is. It truly is. I used to tell my players this all the time, and even as an athlete, as a player, as a coach, that's something I used to preach all the time, is that failure isn't the enemy, man. Quitting on yourself is. If you quit on yourself, then you don't give yourself a shot. You don't give yourself a chance. One of the questions I want to ask you guys today is why are we so afraid to fail? And I used to ask my players this all the time. Why are you so afraid to fail? And they would give me this puzzled look on their face. And it's like, kind of like, But then one of my players actually stepped up and said, because it doesn't feel good, coach. And I said, yeah, but it's not supposed to feel good. Losing is not supposed to feel good. Failing is not supposed to feel good. Somewhere along the way, many of us was taught that failure means that we weren't good enough. And I would tell my players this all the time. But what if failure isn't what destroys our confidence? What if? What if the real damage comes from when we allow the failure to convince us that we don't want to try anymore? We want to give up on ourselves. Failure isn't the enemy. Giving up on yourself is truly the enemy. It truly is. Everybody fails. And if someone told you that they haven't failed, I wouldn't believe them. Most people just don't want to talk about their failures. They feel embarrassed by their failures. They feel like, they're not good enough, like I said earlier. But, no, man, your failures teach you something. One of the crazy things, I was talking to my wife about this, and we were talking about it. And, I was telling her how, social media makes it seem like everybody is winning. It truly does. I know you guys see it. We see people's success. We rarely see, the rejection, the mistakes, the bad decisions. We rarely see the missed opportunities in their lives, the nights they question, themselves and really get frustrated with what's going on. I've personally have failed plenty of times as an athlete, as a coach, I'm sure as a father, as a husband. I've made decisions I wish I could change. I wish I could take back. Growing up, I made some bad decisions. We all have. And we've all failed at a lot of things. I trusted situations that weren't right for me. I know I did. But at that time, I didn't think about it, and I failed. I missed a lot of opportunities, whether it was work. And I know you guys have too, whether it was work or whether it was, an opportunity to go on a new business venture or what have you. Sometimes we don't take all the opportunities, we miss them, because not that lack of confidence, or if we failed before, we kind of like, I don't want to try again. But now we got to keep trying. And the reason why I say this, man, is because none of those things had to become the definition of who you are or who I was. None of them. What's something you once considered? Let's think about this. What's something you once considered a failure that actually taught you something you needed later in life? Think about it. Think about it. Drop it in the comments if you guys, want to share. I would love to hear. We teaching each other something. Like I said, By the Common Man is definitely a brand. It's definitely not a brand. It's a movement. But what is something you once, you considered a failure that actually taught you something later in life, and you look back and say, man, I learned from that because of this. I have a lot of those stories. A lot. Sometimes failure is what hurts. Sometimes failure isn't what hurts our confidence. It's definitely not. The failure happens, but then something else happens in the course of the failures, right? So something else happens in the course of the failures. We retreat when we fail. We kind of go into a shell. We go into a bubble. We stop trying. We stop trying to stop trying to achieve those goals, and we then change direction. But we know that's a good plan for us, right? So, but we change direction so quick because we failed. So we're like, oh man, this doesn't work. It's not good enough. We stop showing up. We missed that project, or we failed on that project, or we missed something and we get called out, and then we kind of shy away and we stop showing up because we don't want to be seen as a failure. We start questioning ourselves. I did that about 3 weeks ago when everything was happening in my life and hit me all at once. We become afraid of experiencing the feeling again, that feeling of failure, that feeling that's kind of deep down in your gut, makes you nervous when you're around people because they saw that failure. And then you're like, as a coach, it's something that we have to deal with all the time, wins and losses, right? You judge by your wins, you judge by your losses. You judge more by your losses than you are your wins. That's something I used to say to all my players. When you lose, people criticize you a lot. You guys know that. You guys have experienced that in life. Sometimes when you lose or something goes bad, everybody wants to criticize you. But when you're winning, no one wants to criticize you. Everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon. Everybody wants to be a part of the party. But when you lose, no one wants to really, some people shy away from you. They don't want to be around a loser. That's what some people say. I love being around people who fail, people who lose, because I can learn something from them. They can teach me something. That's when we start thinking that way, man, when we start thinking and we start becoming afraid and we start getting that feeling again, we don't want that feeling again, then that's when we allow the failure to kind of control us, because it begins to control us. It begins to control who we are. We can't let that happen. I can't let that happen to you guys, all my followers, all the people out here listening. I hope that, what we're sharing today actually changes and helps somebody get through some of the things that they're going through, because we all have failures. We have failures every day of our lives. And not no one's life is perfect. If it is, then man, more power to you. But everybody goes through something. I always say sometimes it's not the fall that changes you. It's being afraid to stand back up that really does. I tell my players that all the time, man. We lose, we're going to get back up from this. We're going to go back to the drawing board. We're going to learn from. We're going to watch film. We're going to be accountable. We're going to take responsibility for our actions. All of us as coaches, players, everybody, and we're going to actually go out here and we're going to make a difference. And we're going to band together and we're going to make a change. And we're going to learn from it and we're going to get better. And we did. Because we didn't let those failures define who we are and define our purpose. I used to always tell them, man, own your part without destroying yourself. And I used to tell them that we're not going to beat you up, but we want you to take responsibilities. And it's the difference between taking responsibilities and then beating yourself up or beating someone up. It's a total difference. Ask yourself a few questions. And I used to tell them all the time, let's ask these questions. We used to have these conversations. What did I do wrong? And what did you do wrong? What could we have done differently? I ask myself that all the time. These are questions I ask myself on a daily. I ask myself this just in my normal routine of going through life. These are questions that I ask myself so that I can try to make myself be held more accountable for my day and my actions throughout my day. Did I prepare? Did we prepare as a team? Did I give my best effort as a player, as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a colleague? Did I ignore something that I already knew? You know how you get that feeling when you know it deep down inside, but it's like you get that feeling and you're like, and then you change and you flip to the other side. But then after you fail, you're like, I knew it, right? I knew it. And that's even a worse feeling sometimes. You knew you was going on the right path, but you flipped it because you were just a little bit unsure of yourself. And that's because you had a little bit of lack of confidence. And you allow them other failures in your life to kind of still hang around and still be there. And that helped. You knew that if you went this way, everything would be good. But because of those failures that came along the way, you still question yourself. We got to stop doing that to ourselves. I had to learn that a long time ago. I had to let those failures teach me the lesson, so then I can do what? I can grow. I can become better. I can become, I can learn from it. I can grow from it. I can not have those same failures, and I can keep building each and every day. That's crazy, man. And also, too, don't blame yourself. Don't blame everybody else. You got to stop blaming everybody else for your failures, because it's not, it's really on you. At the end of the day, it's all on you. It's all on us, right? Our failures on us. Yeah, we have some factors that go into it, but we go back to the drawing board. We ask ourselves a few questions. Sometimes it really does come back to us and how we either approach it, how we deal with it. Did we prepare? Did we do the things we needed to do in order for us not to fail? And I think if we ask ourselves that question, then we can actually grow from it, and then we can allow ourselves to achieve those goals we may have failed from. Take lessons and move forward and with your failure. I tell my players that all the time. We lose, we're gonna take the lesson. We're gonna go back to the drawing board. We're gonna go back to film. We're gonna work on the things we need to work on individually and as a team, and then we're gonna move forward. We can't dwell on it. We gotta move forward. We gotta make progress. Ownership gives you so much power that I don't think people realize how much ownership. When you take ownership, when you take responsibility, when you're accountable, it gives you so much power back. And the reason why is because once you recognize what you can control, you can change what happens next. And we all know that. But sometimes we don't want to recognize because we're afraid of that feeling. But once you recognize what you can control, man, you can change what happens next. Because failure only teaches us what happens right now, because that's what happened right now. But man, we can change what happens tomorrow. We can change what happened next. And we can change how we move to the next step if we learn from those lessons of failure. Every failure tells us something. Every failure tells us something new. Every failure tells us something that we probably already knew, but it teaches us. It's a lesson. Failures are a lesson. They're a lesson. Maybe I wasn't prepared. Those same questions that I told you to ask yourself earlier. Maybe I rushed this. You have those projects when it's the last minute and you got to rush, but you really had enough time to take your time. But because you were rushing, you missed those little details. And I used to tell my players this, and I even tell the people that, work for me. Yes, we got it. We're busy. We have to get the things we need to get done, but let's pay attention to details, right? Let's not rush. Maybe I trusted the wrong situation. We all have done that. I know I have, and sometimes you have to learn. No, really not sometimes, but really you just learn from those things, right? Maybe, we weren't disciplined enough. Maybe we weren't really disciplined enough to really take the steps and understand the steps that we needed to get there in order for us to achieve what we needed to achieve. And then really at the end of the day, maybe, just maybe, we weren't ready yet. It wasn't our time yet. So we had to fail in order for us to go back, figure it out. And then now we know what we need to do to get there. And then it's our time. And then sometimes maybe you did everything right. You did everything right. Because I know sometimes I feel like I did everything right. And life simply did not work out the way you wanted it to. And we have to accept that. We have to accept that. And if we accept that, then guess what? We're accepting, and then we can move forward. Always move forward. Accept and always move forward. Learn and always move forward. Then the question really truly becomes in all of this is, what is this experience trying to teach me at the end of the day? What is this experience of failure trying to teach me at the end of the day? What is it trying to teach me? And that's something that it just sticks with me. It resonates with me. It's the question I ask myself. It's the question I used to tell my players all the time. What is this experience trying to teach me? Don't waste a setback by refusing to learn from it. We got to stop doing that to ourselves. We got to stop wasting these setbacks and refusing to learn from it. These setbacks are lessons, and it's going to teach us how to get to the next step. It's going to teach us how to get better. I've had setbacks. I just had setbacks. But I'm not going to let it define who I am. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to push forward, because that's life. That's why we're here. That's why we're living. That's why I'm here. That's why I woke up this morning, because I'm not going to let those setbacks push me from my goals and what I want to achieve. And don't let it do that to you. And this is life. This is real life. No book's going to teach you. You know, we can read all the books in the world we want, and that's encouraging. I wrote 3 books to try to give a blueprint from a common man, but at the same time, it's the lessons that we learn in life that's going to teach us more than any book can. But we got to be able to open up our minds and our hearts and see and be accountable for the things that we did along the way that helped that we failed. That's a part of it. We failed. I failed. So what do I have to do better in order for me to do what? To achieve that goal. So I have to ask myself, what is this experience teaching me? I told my players, ask that self to yourself all the time. What is this loss teaching me? And then I tell them, don't waste the setback. Don't wait the setback. Learn from it. Build from it. Get better. Go get your purpose. Do what you were built here for. Do what you want. Do what you need. Go get what you set out to go get. And the crazy part about it is, at the end of the day, effort, that word effort after a failure builds so much confidence that it's crazy. You know, as a coach, I watched it in players. As a player, I've watched it in myself. I mean, the effort after a failure, when a person puts in that type of effort after a failure, man, the confidence that they build in themselves is just tremendous. It's tremendous. It's unbroken. It's unbroken. I'm telling you. And I've seen it. Confidence doesn't always come from winning. I told my players that all the time. You know, confidence ain't just about winning, because you can win and you can have all the confidence in the world. But as soon as you lose, you question everything around. You question your coach. You question your teammates. You question your parents. You question everybody. And we know that because when we fail in life, what do? We don't look at ourselves. We start blaming everybody else, pointing the finger at everybody else instead of looking at ourselves, looking deep down inside of ourselves. Sometimes confidence comes from realizing, man. It comes from realizing, man, I went through this and I went through that and I'm still here today. That's how I live my life. You can throw anything at me and I may have those moments, but I understand this one thing. I went through it and I'm still here. I've been told a lot of things. I failed at a lot of things, but man, I'm still here and I'm still grinding. I'm still fighting and I'm going to achieve what I set out to achieve. And you can do the same thing by not giving up, not letting your failures make you quit. Let your failures be your lessons. Every time you get knocked down, you got to get back up. You got to continue to move forward. You got to continue to push. You have to prove something to yourself. Don't ever let the failures knock you down to where you don't want to get up again. Get up, fight, prove to yourself. That's why you were born. That's why you were here. Everybody has value. Everybody has worth. Everybody. Man, you know, at the end of the day, you don't necessarily have to know exactly how everything in your life is going to work out. That's not how it's built. That's not how it's built. If we all knew that, then hey, we wouldn't be having these conversations today. We wouldn't go through the things that we go through. Sometimes you just need enough confidence. And I tell my players, sometimes you need enough confidence to take the next step. Man, I'm gonna tell you something. Success can make you feel confident, but getting back up after failure, I'm gonna tell you right now, it can teach you that you're capable and that you're unstoppable. It truly can. It truly can. I'm gonna tell you guys a little story real quick. I ain't gonna long-wind it, but I'm gonna tell you, I had a player that I coached in high school. My gosh, she was phenomenal. She was one of the best players I've ever seen. You know, man or woman. And, I'm gonna toot my own horn. I was pretty good myself. But this kid, we deliberately set her up to fail the summer prior to her senior year because we knew what her potential would be, and we needed her to fail to be able to get to the point where she will use the failure as lessons, and we can use those failures as lessons to teach her to be the best that she can be on the basketball court. That summer, Kid never played point guard, always played a forward. I made her play point guard all summer long, made her bring the ball up. I made her make mistakes. She made mistakes, and we learned from it. We went back to the drawing board because she still wanted to put in that effort. She wanted to put in that work. Then we went back to the drawing board, and every game we went back to the drawing board. Why? Because I wanted her to see the failures, but I wanted her to also know that you can overcome from those failures and that you can be the best that you can be if you put in the effort and you don't let those failures define you. This kid this kid was phenomenal. 40, 30-point game in a high school game against what? 5 D1 potential D1s, or really probably about 4 D1s and a couple top tier D2 players. And she put 40 and 30 and kept us in the game the whole game and gave us a chance to win at the buzzer. I had college coaches calling me out the wazoo saying, man, I love that kid. That kid effort is relentless. Every time that you guys went down, every time that we failed and we went down, she brought us back because her effort was relentless. She didn't want to give up. She didn't want us to lose. She wanted to make sure she pushed us. She had a goal and she wasn't going to let anything stand in her way. But the reason why is because she failed for a whole summer. She questioned everything. But as she seen how she learned and how she went through the lessons and how she taught herself and she learned from those mistakes, and then she got better and better and better, and her confidence grew and grew and grew. She became outstanding. She achieved everything she wanted to achieve. D1 athlete, full ride scholarship, now entrepreneur, doing her thing, played professional ball like she wanted to, and then she went to do her own business. But she's never going to quit. I watch her and I follow her to this day. I talk to her. This kid is relentless, and you could see it because she's relentless at her work. She's relentless at her business. She goes and she gets it because she never wanted to fail. And I tell you, man, I try to tell you all the time and telling everybody right here on this podcast right now and having this conversation, man, failure teaches you a lot of lessons. Don't let failure take you away from it. Don't let failure make you quit and not learn from it. You got to learn from it. If you learn from it, you're going to be successful. You're going to be successful in life. You're going to have a different attitude, a different outlook. Don't ever let failure get the final decision in your life. You can lose your job and rebuild. You can lose a relationship and rebuild. I've been there. This is not my first marriage. But I was able to lose. I lost that because it wasn't for me. And then I was able to rebuild with what I have now. You can lose money and rebuild. You can make terrible decisions in life, and guess what? You learn from it and you rebuild. I've done it. So you can do it. We all can do it. The common man can do it. It's for us. You don't have to be some special person to do this. This is life. You can have your plans completely disrupted and find another path. You can. I have. You can. Sometimes I say failure gets to tell you what happened. Failure does. Failure gets to tell you what happened, but it doesn't automatically get to tell you what's going to happen next. It's up to you. It's up to you. Are you going to let your failures destroy you? Or are you going to let your failures, are you going to learn from your failures or let your failures build you up? You make that decision. No one else can but you. Now listen, I'm just going to tell you guys straight up and how it is, man. I'm just a common man. I failed a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've gotten a lot of things wrong in life. I've had moments where I've even questioned myself. But one thing life continues to teach me is that failing doesn't mean the journey is over, man. Sometimes the fall is where you learn the biggest lessons and when the lessons begin. Truly is. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. So if you are going through something right now, if you're truly going through something right now, and it feels like you failed, don't let the moment become your identity. Learn from it. Own what you need to own. Give yourself time. Then get back up and try again. You guys hear what I'm saying, right? Get back up and try again. Because failure isn't the enemy. It's not the enemy. That's what we've been taught. We've been always taught that failure is the enemy. Something's wrong. We're not good enough. Failure isn't the enemy. Not at all. The real enemy is deciding that because something didn't work, you're no longer going to keep trying. And that you're no longer capable of what? Creating a better tomorrow for yourself. Don't let it happen. Man, this is By the Common Man. Real life, real experiences, real conversations. Nothing cookie cutter about it. I'm just talking real. I'm just talking to you straight up. Just how I go through my life. These are real experiences. These are real life experiences for me. And I just want to share them with you because if it's something that you're going through or if it's something that someone else is going through out there, man, share this with them. If it's something that's going to help them get through something, share this with them. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Remember, By the Common Man is not a brand. It's a movement. It's a movement to try to help us become better in this world. Try to help people understand what life really is, what life really is about. All the pain, all the things that we go through, all the suffering that we go through. When we lose someone in our family, we lose someone in our life, or we have these failures, or we have these moments, we have to continue to push forward. We have to continue to get up and keep moving. Why? Because if you let this set you back, you're not honoring those that have gone. And if you let this set you back, you're not honoring yourself. Everybody's here for a purpose. Everybody's here for a reason. Everybody has value. Everybody has worth. Love yourself. Love those around you. But understand, don't let your failures make you quit. Take your failures and learn the lesson that will teach you how to be better tomorrow. By the Common Man, I'm out. Peace.